So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and I hope all is good with yous. Now Chris Billam-Smith returns to the ring against Mariusz Masternak, and he stopped him in 7 rounds, and it was a bit of a mixed performance from Chris Billam-Smith and a weird stoppage victory for him as well. Again, he was, from my point of view, and I think even from the scorecards on the night as well, he was losing the fight. And as I said, it was a mixed performance because this was a weird performance from Chris Billam-Smith, because his body language and the way he was moving in the ring just didn't look how we usually see Chris Billam-Smith perform. However, he obviously got the job done. He stopped his man. His man didn't come out for the eighth round. It was 2 seconds or whatever into the eighth round, and the referee stopped it. And Marius was pretty much saying that he's obviously he's had an injury to his rib. So obviously in that seventh round, Chris Billam-Smith was working the body a little bit more, and I'm guessing one of his body shots must have hurt Marius. But as I said, it was a bit of a dubious stoppage because Marius was clear ahead, and from my point of view, he was hurting Chris Billam-Smith at times, like quite a lot of the times throughout the fight. And it was always the overhand right, which for some reason Chris Billam-Smith just didn't know how to block. The straight 1-2 and followed by the overhand right, and the hook as well. Marius was also at times, more than once as well, was able to land 6-7 punches in a row on Chris Billam-Smith without any sort of return from Chris Billam as well. So it was quite a weird performance, as I said. His body language from round one, you know what I mean, he looked uncomfortable, and he just didn't look the usual Chris Billam-Smith, fluid, a bit more nimble on his feet, and his jab was null and void in this fight. Whereas in previous fights, his jab's probably been one of his best assets as well. And if, from my point of view, if this fight would have went on, and let's say into the latter part of the fight, I don't feel as if Chris Billam-Smith would have stopped his opponent, because this guy was durable. You know what I mean? Anything that Billam-Smith was landing to the head, this guy was absorbing it. I don't know how, but he was absorbing it. And it was just the body, which kind of makes sense because this guy is old. I don't know how old he is. He's probably at least in his late 40s, I'd say. But for from an older fighter, which he looked like an older fighter, I don't even know how old he is, but I'd say he's older than Chris Billam-Smith. You have to kind of work the body, and that's the key, because this guy's record, he's had over 50 something fights. So, you know what I mean, he's been in there with some good opponents as well. So the head is always going to be durable. It's the body sometimes which isn't as durable as the head. And that was the key. And obviously Billam-Smith did a post fight conference interview and said that Shane McGuigan pretty much said to him that obviously go to the body, he's hurt, and that's what he did, and that's pretty much how he got his man out there as well. But as I said, a mixed performance from Chris Billam-Smith. It was his first defence in his hometown as well, of Bournemouth, so maybe he had that, you know what I mean, on his mind, and he just wanted to put on a good performance for all his fans, seeing as his hometown return. So yeah, a weird performance, and I don't really know where to go from here. But he pretty much claims that he obviously wants to try and fight for the vacated belt. There's a vacated belt in the division, and he would like to try and at some point maybe try and become undisputed in that division as well. But this fight wasn't a mandatory fight, which means that he has to fight a mandatory opponent, and currently his mandatory is going to be Richard Riakporhe, which Richard Riakporhe's already got that victory over Chris Billam-Smith as well. So Chris Billam-Smith's already suffered one loss, and that came to Richard. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next. You've obviously got Lawrence Okoli as well, who obviously he should have had a rematch clause as well before this Masternak fight. So there's a couple of options there for Chris Billam-Smith to determine which fight's next. In his view, he would like to obviously try and capture another world title. But from my point of view, it's either going to be Richard Riakporhe or Lawrence Okoli next. And I'd probably say that the way Chris Billam-Smith is going, I'd probably say we'll probably see him out at least 3 times next year. But let me know about your thoughts with this performance from Chris Billam-Smith. How did you see it going? Are you like me? You know what I mean? Was Chris Billam-Smith losing all the rounds, or did you feel as if he was in control? And do you feel that if the fight would have continued towards the latter part of the fight, do you feel as if he would have stopped his opponent? And who would you like to see Chris Billam-Smith go up against next? As always, guys, please subscribe and comment. Bless.